Hey everybody, welcome to those who haven't been here before and welcome back to those who have come before. Thanks for watching again. I am Aaliyah Langley. So I wasn't planning on doing this video. I did my first Love is Blind video for episodes 1 through 6 on season 6. And I kind of was like, I don't think I'm going to do any more for the rest of the season. But then I started talking about these latest episodes, 7, 8, and 9, with some people, and it ended up being this long kind of conversation to a degree. And I was kind of like, well, I guess I do have some things to say about it, so why not just make a video on it and talk through it, and why not? So I'm back, and essentially, as you can tell from the title, if you clicked on this video, then this is a Love is Blind recap, season 6, episodes 7 through 9. So I'm going to just essentially just dive right in. Similar to what we did in the last video, just go through the couples one by one. There's been a lot of changes since the last 6 episodes first came out. Essentially, to where we left off in those episodes where we went through the pods, we went through their kind of engagement moon, and they were just at the end of their engagement moon, essentially, and they were going to be going back to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where the season is based. And that's where it ended. And now 7, 8, 9, they're living together. People are going back to work. My ears look weird. We're going to tuck those in. They're living together. People are going back to work, coming back to their lives, seeing their friends. They get their phones back, and kind of like the real world kind of starts to come in a little bit, and you're kind of seeing how that can affect a relationship. As I said before, they don't have them move into like their own apartments. They have them all move into like this. They're kind of all like in townhomes, like a new development. They're all living, like not all together, but like the engaged couples are living together in a new shared space, and they'll be there for 3 weeks until wedding day. So let's just start from the top. So Amy and Johnny is the first couple I'm going to go through. Amy and Johnny, with them, they seem kind of just to be like that couple who just, you know, they maybe would have a couple things together, but they honestly seem, out of most everybody, that they kind of seem maybe the people who would be the most successful. And I still think that, but with them, they're kind of, their biggest hurdle this past couple episodes has essentially been Johnny does not want to have a baby on accident. Johnny is the man in the relationship. Johnny doesn't want Amy to get pregnant at all, and he's like worried about it. She's not on birth control, and he kind of has, I feel like he kind of has assumed that every woman is not going to be in birth control, because he basically said, yeah, all my exes have been in birth control, and like it's never been something that hasn't come up, essentially. And Amy is very much like, I haven't been on birth control. I don't think she doesn't really want to go on birth control. She came out later basically saying she has some condition or something which makes birth control like even more of a consideration. And also just in general, if you don't want to go on birth control, it's just you're pumping your body full of hormones. So it should be not necessarily an inherent thing like, oh yeah, every woman's just going to be in birth control. Like, no, there's other forms of contraception. And apparently Amy brought up to him, you know, you can consider a vasectomy. And he seems to be considering it, but it's more so like, yeah, but it's on you to kind of figure out what we're doing with the contraception. So that's their biggest hurdle. They haven't been physically intimate because he's a little bit worried. You know, he just doesn't want a whoopsie situation. And even Amy was talking about it. They were having a kind of back and forth, and she was saying, yeah, I don't want that either, but you know, if it does happen, I mean, it's not like we can't handle it. And he was like, yeah, but I don't want that at all. They both kind of come from low SES backgrounds, like growing up, socioeconomic status, and so they both are conscious of it, but Johnny is definitely more so. And they essentially ended it on their kind of chat on it, at least that we've seen, that we have to figure this out before the wedding day, because for them, I think they want to be physically intimate before the wedding day, but also they need to figure out what the plan is, because something like that's something you figure out after you say I do. This is sex is an important part of a relationship, and you got to figure that out before you get married. So yeah, that's really their thing. Who knows what's going on there? It was the whole conversation. I was kind of getting put off on Johnny because like the way he was speaking, it was kind of just like, why aren't you on birth control? Everyone's on birth control. All the women I've been with have been on birth control, and it was kind of just like, no. So that was annoying, and I was happy that Amy brought up a vasectomy, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, why aren't we talking about vasectomy? Reversible, hello. So, anyways, we'll see what happens with them. I still think they have the best chance at everybody. Like, overall, I still think they have that to work through, but I think that they probably could be good if they just make it there. We'll see. The next couple is another couple who last time I said I think they have some things to get over as well, but they probably will be okay. They seem to really be connected. But Brittany and Kenneth, big yikes. So, essentially, recap on them. Brittany and Kenneth were the couple who are the religious couple that connected immediately on religion. They're both Christian. They ended essentially the first episode of the new kind of batch started with Kenneth talking to Brittany about the conversation he had with AD about him not dating a white woman before and being conscious of, okay, how's this going to go about my family? And AD bringing up to him like, okay, she's going to have to raise black children. How's she going to do with that? Brittany, I didn't necessarily know this before. Maybe I just missed it. She apparently has dated several black men, so she's maybe had some of these conversations before, whereas he hasn't dated a white woman before. So he kind of was like, yeah, I have to just wait to see what it's like when we get home. But with them, it seemed to just go downhill fast. Like, they moved into the place. He's a middle school principal, and he immediately, what we were seeing was Brittany was trying to talk to him. Brittany was trying to get him to, like, work with her in terms of, like, setting up their space. She was unpacking, trying to, like, set up stuff. And he was literally just on his phone, just holding his phone, on his phone the whole time. Just like, yeah, barely listening, kind of just, like, doing those little one, like, that's what I just did, like, yeah, not listening to her, not helping. And it really was seeming like they were really just pulling apart. Even towards the end of their engagement mood, it seemed like it was kind of just like quiet and kind of like awkward and like, okay, like, so what's happening now? It was very, very weird. He just kept picking up his phone, and then essentially it ended with them. They kind of had an argument about he had come home late one night, like at 1:30. He was doing some work stuff. He was getting his braids done, and then he like was doing work things, and he was texting her, telling her where he was. But he got home. She was already asleep because it's 1:30 in the morning. Apparently, he turned one of the lights on, woke her up, and was trying to like hug and kiss her, and she was like not reciprocating because it's 1:30 a.m. and you just woke me up. And apparently, that caused a little bit of like, he was like, well, I was trying to show you affection, and you didn't want it at all. And she was saying, I don't feel like we have the crave for each other. Like, we want to wait till marriage, but I still want to maybe have, like, some temptation, or we haven't even made out at all. I feel like we're just being kind of, like, separate, and it's kind of strange. And he essentially, and she was saying, I think you're such a great guy, and I want this to work. I feel like we got to just figure out. And he was just like, well, obviously, I'm not meant for you then. And he essentially just said, like, okay, well, like, I think he was just completely checked out. Because it was kind of like, she wasn't saying she was trying to be down. She was trying to say, how can we, like, work on this, or how can we, be more connected. And he was just like, well, I'm not the one for you then. And the girl's crying, literally crying. And he picks up his phone again, and it's just sitting there. He was eating. Had a discussion. After the conversation is kind of done, she's crying there. He just picks up his phone, and he's on his phone. And then he gets up and says, all right, well, hug me so there's no beef. And then he just goes upstairs. The girl's still crying on the sofa downstairs. And then you hear him on the phone to his friend saying, hey, bro, I'm about to be over there soon. So I was just like, Kenneth. So I honestly was feeling bad for Brittany, because Brittany was seeming like she was trying her best in some capacity to try to, not saying, obviously we don't know everyone's relationship, but she was trying to, like, get somewhere with Kenneth, and, like, obviously didn't want the stitch to crumble and crash like it did. But it was really weird, because it was like, I don't know how long this period was, but it was kind of like everything, like a complete switch. Maybe Kenneth just started to doubt what he was doing in this whole thing. I don't know. There's been some other rumors out there. I won't necessarily get into them, but if you happen to watch the show, you might have seen some things that have come out from one of his family members and things like that. I don't really know, but it just seemed like he was just completely checked out. I felt bad for Brittany, and so it's done, and Kenneth was just being a weirdo at the end, and I'm sad for them. We'll see what happens at the reunion. All right, next couple is AD and Clay. Lordy. AD and Clay. So I basically ended last time saying that someone said that AD and Clay probably should just be sex partners, but probably not actually in a relationship. I still am holding that value, but I also think, like, Clay just is not, he's just not it. He keeps talking about being nervous to cheat. He was going into this whole thing saying, my dad would take me on his infidelity trips, which, crazy. Imagine his mom watching this at home, like, oh my gosh. But he kept talking about, I have all these black men in my family, or all these black men that I know, or just men in general that I know have been cheaters, and I haven't seen anybody be loyal to their spouse. And again, he was really talking about his parents, but he was also talking about all these other influences. He was saying, my influences or my role models were Will Smith and Diddy, and I don't want to let you down. Essentially setting her up to say, well, if he were to cheat on her, say, well, I told you I wasn't good for you, or I wasn't a good guy. Just run. I feel like if a man is that worried, you're not even in a marriage yet, but he's that worried about cheating on you, or he's trying to warn you about, oh, look at my history, look at the people I've been around, I probably am going to cheat, or I might cheat, I'm worried about it. I feel like that's just like a red flag, get up and run. And I want better for AD. I feel like, why are you, okay, it's just not. Why are you continuing to say you're worried about cheating? I get that about your history in terms of what you've been around, but that doesn't necessarily mean like we could move forward into new things. And also even just like other things, like about Clay that I just don't really like that much. They were at a lunch with Clay's mother and sister. They're talking, AD says she's cold. She says that she's cold twice. Clay just is sitting back, doesn't do anything, has a jacket on. Eventually, Clay's mom takes off her shawl. This grown, older woman takes off her shawl and gives it to AD. Now, Clay, why aren't you taking off your jacket? Your fiance said she's cold twice, and you're just sitting there like, oh, I'll have the chicken. Like, hello? And then you're going to have your mom take off her? So that kind of stuff for me is just, nah. And in that same lunch, they were there, and Clay's mom was asking AD how it's going with like Clay's work schedule and how's that going, and like how are you guys still able to spend time together. He's an entrepreneur, and she was saying, yeah, it's fine. I just want to make sure we continue to stay connected and that we can make sure we prioritize each other. And Clay was going on about, you know, I'm working right now. You're not working again yet. Like, they've been off, and I guess she hasn't started up again work just as yet. I think she was starting soon. So he was saying, you're at home and you have a lot of time, like, waiting for me, but type of thing. And AD essentially said, yeah, I don't have a problem with your work ethic. I just want to make sure that we continue to prioritize each other. And then he goes, so what's the problem then? And AD just goes, oh. And Clay's mom and Clay's sister is just kind of there like, awkward. Like, why are you fighting in front of your mom, your sister as well, but in front of your mom? Like, can we pull together? I don't know. I just feel like with that, some of the things, I just don't really know. I just feel like I want better for AD. I feel like she can get better. And I feel like Clay is just not, overall, he's just not. And she just needs to run. AD just needs to run is really where my stance on it. And I'm not moving from it. All right, fourth couple is Laura and Jimmy. Woo, Laura and Jimmy. So what I said with them, I said I didn't know on last video. I said I didn't know what was going to happen with them. I feel like they're kind of different in their personalities, and I just don't know how it would work. And honestly feel this is the same. So again, there's been more rumors come out with Jeremy. Apparently he was engaged before and was applying for the show when he was still engaged, and like just got like moved out like a week before filming began for this season. So it was kind of, there's all these things. If you want to look into it, go ahead and look on Twitter or something. But so they're back in the real world. Sarah Ann is the woman Jeremy was getting to know before picking Laura, essentially, like when they were all in the pods. Sarah Ann DM'd Jeremy on Instagram, basically saying, hey, if you changed your mind, like, I'm still around type thing. And he just, didn't really do anything to the message. He showed Laura, so he was very transparent with it right away. So that was good, and it seemed like it was going to be like a non-issue. They met the family, and it seemed all nice. But then, which was in the preview that we saw before, saying, you stayed until 5 a.m. talking to her? So that whole scene happened, essentially. We didn't actually, the producers, I'm not sure what's going on with the producers, because the producers missed this and another big moment I'm about to talk about, but the producers missed this hangout with Jeremy and Sarah Ann, apparently. Apparently Jeremy was going to go meet up with some other pod friends, from some of the boys from the, or men from the pods, who didn't get engaged. And they said, oh, Sarah Ann is here. Do you still want to come? And he said, yeah, I'll still come. I'm not going to let her, like, change my plans or anything. And then I guess he said to Laura, this is like the next day or whatever, he's sitting there with his sunglasses on. He's kind of just like, they're talking. And Jeremy says, yeah, I thought I should just talk to her about it now instead of having to wait and draw it out. Like, why not just, we're here together. Why not just talk about it? And so Laura said, so you guys stayed back until 5 a.m. talking? Like, and he's like, yeah, we were in the parking lot of Lost and Found. I think it's like some club or something in Charlotte type thing. And he said, I had my location on so that way you knew where I was. If you want, I was trying to be, honest, and my location was on and you could have checked it and everything like that. And Laura was like, I'm not checking your location I want a fiance who's doesn't need to give me reassurance, so I have to check his location at 5 a.m. I want him to be home. And he kept going, well, yeah, I was in the parking lot. I had my location on, so you could have looked at it. And she said, okay, so you're denying you left the parking lot of Lost and Found. He said, I don't want to talk about that right now. And she goes, And she goes, you were in the parking lot of Lost and Found. Completely switches. You were in the parking lot of Lost and Found. And he goes, well, I was in the alley next to Lost and Found. There was an alley. And she says, you weren't even in South End. You were in North Shore, where Sarah Ann lives. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the names are, but South something and North. She said, you weren't in the South. You were in the North where Anna lives, where Sarah Ann lives. Like, what she did there was just a masterful way to get a man caught in a web of lies. She just let that man talk in circles, let him dig himself a hole, let him just say, I was in the parking lot, and just lie. And then she said, oh, actually, I checked that location, because she said, don't put your location on if you want me to check it at 5 a.m. And I was like, Laura, I didn't know your game. I didn't really like Laura. But when she did this, I was like, Laura, I respect it. That is what you do. You let someone just speak and just mess it up for themselves, and then you come in and say, actually, boom, evidence. So I don't know what's going on there. I just feel like it won't last regardless, because with this situation happening, but also I feel like in general, it just doesn't seem like, I feel like it's one of those surface level things right now, and they're like having a good time together, but I don't necessarily see it going past that, especially given what just happened with the Sarah Ann thing. And we're going to see what else unfolds, but it's just not looking good. And finally, Chelsea and Jimmy. They seem good sometimes, but then again, what I said in the last video was I feel like Chelsea's insecurity is going to get the best of her, and it's going to mess things up in the relationship. And that's kind of what's been happening, kind of. So essentially for them, it seemed to be going kind of all fine, but then it was like one day where I guess Jimmy had seen Jessica's Instagram. So he saw a picture of Jessica for the first time, or Facebook or something, some social media profile. Jessica is the woman. Jimmy was like in between. He was in between Chelsea and Jessica in the pods. She's just a beautiful woman. And I think some people think Chelsea kind of went with Jimmy over Trevor, the guy she was considering, just because it's like I'm able to get the guy that the prettiest girl or whatever is going after, but like he chose me type thing. It feels like it's one of those things, again, with the insecurity that she has something probably better for her with Trevor, but it's like, okay, well, Jimmy wants me. Jimmy's with like this gorgeous pretty girl. Not that Chelsea's not gorgeous, but and let me get this one, because that's like I beat the really pretty girl. So essentially, Jimmy sees a picture of Jessica, and I guess that same day, Jimmy he's like a software person. He works from home, and Chelsea is a flight attendant, so she's not really back to work yet. I'm not sure if she actually will go back to work during this filming, because she's gonna really be gone if she's a flight attendant. But I guess Chelsea was there with her friends. They were over at their little house talking, and she was saying, Jimmy hasn't kissed me all day today, and I just feel like he's not really attentive to me. He's on his phone a lot, and he's just like so busy, and it's like really hard. And I just feel like he's not, giving me the attention that I need type thing. Jimmy comes down from work, meets the friends. It's going great. And this is like in the daytime. And then it's like hours later, like it's nighttime now. You see it's dark outside. They're talking, and Chelsea brings it to Jimmy. You didn't kiss me all day today, and I feel like, you're not giving me attention type thing. Jimmy says, I'm sorry. He says, I actually did kiss you today. I kissed you like in the bathroom this morning, and I kissed you another time like on the side of your lip. And she goes, okay, well, I just feel like you need to do more. And he was saying, I tell you, I love you more than any guy, in this experiment and all these types of things. And he's like, I don't care. And he says to her, well, I feel like you're being clingy lately. And she just goes off, and she's like, I'm being clingy. And she starts like raising her voice and saying, how dare you? I'm the guy I'm engaged to, saying I'm clingy. I can't believe this, yada, yada. And then she says, and they're talking about how you're saying I'm clingy. She says, you were at work all day, and then I cooked you dinner. I watched your show with you. She's cursing while saying all this. She's like, I cooked you dinner. I watched your show with you. I was yada, yada, yada. So then I went upstairs and had sex with you, and you're saying I'm clingy? And then he goes, well, if you bring up the sex, I kind of want a breather from that too. Oh my gosh. And again, of course, she gets upset at that as well. But if someone were to, that is really, wow. Wow, wow, wow. She's trying to bring that up, like her talking about having sex with him as the way to be like, I can't believe you're calling me clingy when I just did all these things for you, including sex. And he goes, well, actually, you wanted it. He said to her, well, I just want to say, you wanted it. I just was, I want to breathe from that too. That is really, if that, I would want the ground to swallow me up if that was said to me. That is crazy. My sister said to me, actually, I was talking to her about this a little bit, but she doesn't even care about these shows, and I'm happy she indulged me in this moment. She said, well, women say that all the time, and they're not necessarily, like, sometimes if a woman says, I don't necessarily want sex in this time, I don't know. But it was the reverse this time, and I feel like it's just like, ooh, that is just yikes. Yikes. So their thing there, they like, Chelsea said she was going to leave, and then Jimmy ends up, like, go leave, stay somewhere else, or, like, go out, whatever. Then Jimmy just ups and leaves instead. And then they come back together the next day, and they, like, are able to get through it. I guess they talked maybe off camera or something. But with them, again, I just feel like the insecurities there are going to be a problem, and I do feel like she's being clingy a bit. From what we've seen, I feel like the way she speaks about stuff, is kind of very much hands-on and very, like, not saying that you don't want that sometimes, but I feel like it might be overkill. And it could also be because she's not working right now. Like, again, she kind of has some time to kind of just be around. Because he was saying, just because I'm working from home doesn't mean I can tell you I love you every, like, 5 minutes. Like, I'm busy, I'm doing things, and yada yada. It just doesn't seem like I just don't think it's going to last there either. And again, there's a preview of them actually meeting Jessica for Jimmy and Trevor for Chelsea. And conversations are being had there about maybe, like I said before, they're all living in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's easier to kind of get back together with someone because you're all in the same city. It'd be different if this was like The Bachelor, where I'm in Seattle and someone else is in Atlanta. Like, they're all right there together. So it's like, and they're all going to see each other eventually, probably in this next crop episode. So we're going to just see what happens. But ultimately, I think the only couple I can see lasting is Amy and Johnny. But even that, I'm not sure. And there's been some things about Amy and Johnny as well. There was a video of Johnny walking through the airport with Jessica just the other day. And it's just like, I just don't know. I don't know. And it's really just a big pile right now. But it's good TV. It's good TV. The next episodes drop tomorrow. I'm filming this right now on the 27th. They drop on Wednesday, the 28th. I think it's maybe 2 or 3 episodes coming out. And we are nearing home. I'm excited for the reunion because this show was always filmed like a year in advance. So I'm always excited, like, what has transpired in this past year, like who's actually together, what other drama has happened, is there, all the kind of updates. It's kind of unfortunate because I feel like Vanessa and Nick Lachey, they don't really ask great questions. And I get maybe they have like a script, but sometimes I'm like, I need you to dig a bit and give the people what they want. Like, dig here. We have them all here together. Get the real information, but they kind of just like coast and ask the kind of little cutesy Netflix approved questions or whatever. But it's like, all right, if you want people to actually stay on and watch, then I need you to draw them out. Like, come on now. So anyways, this was my Love is Blind video. Episodes 7, 8, and 9. Like I said, 7 through 9. A little review on everybody. I'm not sure if I'll do this again for the next crop. I just feel like I'm just here chatting about this stuff. But if you've watched this show, then comment below. What do you think about these couples? Who do you think is going to make it? There's 5 of them. Well, I guess 4 of them together now. Brittany and Kenneth crashed and burned. What do you think about them? Who's going to make it? Who's not going to make it? Are you thinking someone's going to switch to go back to someone they were with before? I feel like there's a lot of possibilities still here. And there's just a lot going on. And I'm looking forward to seeing, like, what else happens. It's been pretty good so far this season. Like, it keeps you engaged enough. So, yeah. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching me just ramble on about Love is Blind for 25 some minutes. I really appreciate it. I will be back for another video at some point. Who knows when? Because like I've been saying, I'm just making videos and having fun with it because why not? This is 2024 and this is what happens. So, anyway. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.